Hey, what's going on, everybody? So one of the things we have talked about in the past has been that statement of you only have 18 summers with your children. Not only has my family been trying to downsize and find more happiness in life, we're also trying to meet new people and meet other people who have done the same thing. This is Jim and his story about how he's lived in a tiny house, and his primary motivation was to have more time and more experiences with his daughter. Jim has an amazing story, and I'm excited to share that with you. So let's get started.
I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I've been in Oklahoma for quite a while. I am an elementary school teacher. I teach kindergarten in Tulsa, and I live in a tiny house. Well, as soon as I started throwing around the idea and telling people I was going to build a tiny house, that's all everybody wanted to talk to me about. And then I have a brother who lives in California, and his wife happened to see, I don't know, online or on the paper or something, that HGTV was looking for tiny houses. So she sends me an email, and I just sent an email saying, hey, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm building a tiny house. And 24 hours later, I get a call back, and we're doing a casting interview, and it went really, really quickly from there. So it was really my sister-in-law who gave us the information, and then it just happened. We didn't really have a choice at that point. I mean, on the show, we looked at different houses in a pretty wide range, and a wide range of prices even. And it really came down to money. Like my motivating factor, I didn't really care what the space was. I wanted it to be comfortable and have everything that we needed. But I kind of didn't want to spend more than my budget. I wanted to stay, if anything, stay under budget so I could pay cash for it and we could walk away from it with no bills. On the show they gave us an option of a really nice one that was way over my budget, and we were talking about payments, and that was the thing that just kind of threw me back. Like, I don't want any payments. That's the whole purpose of this. I don't care if it takes me a year to pay it off. I want none. I just want to pay cash, just like you do at the grocery store. Pay cash and walk out. Well, it was actually after my divorce when, honestly, I was kind of, the finances were low, and I was thinking of a way that I could travel with my daughter. I always wanted to take her to different places around the world, and on a teacher's salary in Oklahoma, it's not possible, really. And with no money in the bank account, I was looking for something that could kind of turn that around quickly, so I could travel with her before she goes off to college. And so that was what spurred the initial decision. I was always interested in them. I saw them on HGTV, and they looked interesting and something that I could do because I generally live a simple life anyways. Yeah, I mean, my daughter was definitely the number one priority in that, and the thing I was thinking about. Like, her and I have a really close relationship anyways, but I grew up with very little, and we never really left the state to travel, and I wanted her to see the world as much as possible. So time with her in the summers, especially being off as a teacher, was number one. The second one was really kind of finances in terms of being able to save money. That was never really anything that I could do. And I actually have two jobs. I also teach online college courses. So even with that, it was very difficult to save money for the future. And then the third one was to be able to give back more. I always felt like, yes, I could give a little bit here and there of my time and my money, but I wanted to give more substantial gifts to people. And then also work less so I could give more of my time. So it was really kind of my daughter, time, and money. And be able to give back to our community. Absolutely. I think it's definitely incredibly difficult really for even families that have two incomes at this point, to own a standard size house, middle America, and to be able to save money and travel. It's nearly impossible. And on a single salary, I don't see how anybody does it. The only people that I knew previous to this that did it were people that were wealthy, or they had family money or something like that. I think it is impossible for the average American. I think unless you're wealthy, you can't do it. It's a shed that's been converted into a house. So it was, which is a thing lately now. There's a lot of portable building companies that are now building tiny houses for you. And so it's standard construction as it would be for a house, but it's just in the shape of a barn style shed. And then it was outfitted to kind of have a couple of places to sleep and be a house. It's a 12 by 20, and the ceilings are about 7 feet, and then it has kind of like a 4-foot loft space up in the attic. Yeah, I think the shed cost this one was $4,000. You can spend anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 for a blank shed, depending on the size and whether you want 1-story, 2-story, the style. So you're looking at a minimum of $4,000, and then in materials to build something similar to this, if you were to do it all yourself, you're probably looking at an additional $6,000 to $7,000. So really a $10,000 to $15,000 range in terms of price if you do the work yourself. And it can be done. I mean, most of us either do it ourselves, or we can watch YouTube, or we have friends and family that could help us. That's the best way to keep the price down. Because I do know if you start paying contractors, or if you go to companies, even shed companies that are building tiny houses now, that's going to raise the price 2-3-fold. So then you're looking at $20,000 to possibly $30,000, even just for something like this. But if you keep the cost down, if you were to just buy the shed yourself and not spend a lot of money on style and design, you could be in the $10,000 to $12,000 range for the whole thing. Okay, so basically, a blank shed like this is kind of how it was built. Is a blank shed like this is just an empty shed that somebody would use in their backyard for storage. And then what was added is 2 loft spaces on either side for kind of little bedrooms for us to have some privacy. There was a 3/4 bath added, so there's just a little wall that was built in there with a pocket door to kind of keep space, or protect that space. And then there's one end of it has a kitchen, just a very small kitchen with a sink and a small fridge and a little oven unit, things like that. It doesn't have a washer and dryer or dishwasher. And then there's a little living space. All of our clothes storage and most of our storage for things we need on a daily basis are downstairs. And then we added the deck after the show, and and then ended up putting in some new vinyl flooring after that. Those are about the only additions post-show. But that was it. It's very basic on the inside. Well, going into it, honestly, I was only worried about her reaction long term. Like she was at the time 11, and now she's going to be 15, and so it's that those early teenage years. And she's a girl. I had heard all kinds of horror stories, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm cramming this teenage daughter into a small space with her dad. I'm like, this could be bad. And she's been just fantastic. Prior to it, she was open to the idea. She's a minimalist at heart already. She would wear the same sweatshirt every day if I let her. But after we had lived in it for a while, she loves it better than the standard size houses that we've had in the past. She has her 2 or 3 little nook spaces where she'll go and study or read or watch YouTube or something like that. And it's just fantastic. And to be in that close proximity as a parent versus in a house where they're upstairs and distant, just that physical space makes a difference, because we'll be in the same room, because we are all the time, and she'll just start talking about some things that happened at school. And if she was upstairs distant in a house, that might not happen. So when you put people in a close space like that, you almost are forced to talk to them sometimes. And so I think that has really helped too, because that's even brought us closer than we were before. I mean, before the divorce, we had a standard size house, 1,300 square feet, all the amenities that you would have in that kind of house. And the downsizing process actually was really liberating and positive. I didn't really ever have any negative experiences. I enjoyed getting rid of stuff and kind of figuring out. We put everything in storage, and then when we moved into the tiny house, it was like thinking, what can fit in here, and everything else has to go. And it was just incredibly liberating. I don't need very much personally, so that process was very easy. The one aspect that I miss a little bit is having a washer dryer in the house. We have to go next door to our friend's house to do laundry, but at the same time, it opens up kind of that sense of community. I've seen tiny house villages where they share appliances and kitchen things and stuff like that, and having that community. Every time we go do laundry, we end up sitting over there and having coffee and talking and things like that. And I love living in that, and I would love if there were more people around us and more sharing going on, because that support and communication really helps. Because a lot of what a standard house gives you is you're isolated. A lot of people don't talk to their neighbors, and so it forced me out of my comfort zone, because I'm comfortable by myself in my house, and so this forces me to get out and be in community, which is just a huge benefit. Yes, I would encourage anybody to at least downsize. Most people don't need the space that they have. They don't use the space that they have. It's a burden. They have to fill it with furniture. It takes extra time to clean. So just to have a smaller space, just what you need, maybe slightly more. Nobody has to live in 200 square feet. And I'm not going to force you to do that, but just think about it differently, because you really don't need what you have. And oftentimes it's a burden, because it costs extra money. It takes extra time to take care of and clean and maintain. So I encourage anybody to do that. I would even encourage anybody to go the drastic step. It's the most incredibly liberating experience not to have a mortgage or rent payment. That the first month that happened, and watching my bank account go up every month instead of up and down per paycheck, was just, there was so much joy. And it wasn't about the fact that I had money in my account. It was just, I don't have to worry about money. You don't think about it. You're pulling one of the largest stressors in American society off your brain, and it just opens you up. It's so freeing. So I encourage anybody to do that, even if it just means you move into a house where your mortgage payment is $200 less a month. Think about that. That's a lot of money that you're saving. And that adds up over the year. And what can you do with that money? You can go on fancy vacations. You can do things with your family that you've always wanted to do, instead of, when the kids get done with high school, when they get out of college, later. You don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. So take advantage of that time now. The first step in even thinking on going tiny, I suggest talking to people who have done it. Whether that's watching videos online, trying to find people in your local community who have done it, to talk about the struggles, because there really wasn't anybody in the Tulsa area when I did it to talk to. So I watched videos online. I tried to get in community, at least on Facebook, to find out what the struggles were. I avoided some, but I ended up in others as well. And so finding that is important, because everybody's needs are different. Everybody's income is different. Everybody's wants and desires for what you have to have, because on a wish list of 10 items in a tiny house, you might get 2, and everybody's list is different. So talk to people. Figure out how much money it is that you have to spend, and then come up with a list, like what do I absolutely have to have in my house for me to be comfortable, because you have to be comfortable and enjoy it to be able to also enjoy the benefits of saving money and all the other things that come along with it. If you're miserable because you don't have a washer and dryer and you're going to hate that on a daily basis, you're probably not going to stay in that very long. So talk to people, find out what experiences they've had. They might also have information on, like, you know, the laws and statutes that are in place in your community, in your state, and your, you know, and things like that you can avoid so you don't get fines and taxed and inappropriately. So yes, talk to people. I have zero regrets with living in a tiny house in that transition. It's been the best thing. When I think about the future, my future isn't necessarily in Oklahoma, and so my thoughts are already like, where am I going to build a new one? Where's my next one going to be? I would never go back to a standard size house. You could not force me back into it. Honestly, even if I just won the lottery next week, I would put the money in the bank and live in a tiny house, because it's having a standard size house and knowing how much you don't need it is, to me, simply a waste of our time and resources, and time is the thing that we don't have control over, so grab it. Yeah, since downsizing, I've never been happier. Life is just so much easier. I mean, taking that money thing off the plate has been huge. Being able to not only travel the world with my daughter, but my family is all spread all over the United States. So to be able to just drop and go see my mom, and instead of driving 13 hours to see her, we just hop on a plane and I don't think about it. In the past, we had to save money just to go see my mom, and now we're up there, up in Wisconsin a lot more. I've been able to take my daughter to sporting events. She's a college basketball fan, so we've been to the Final Four a bunch of times. That would have never been possible had we not done that. So it's just pure joy. We've had so many experiences. It's brought my daughter and I closer together. It's changed my life. It's put me on a path to where I may not have to work full time very soon. And that's just incredible to think about, that I could work less in my 40s and still enjoy life and travel the world. So I've never been happier. I'd like people to know that this process, even with its struggles, are nothing compared to what you're going through now with having to pay your mortgage payment and deal with all the bills that you have already, and the struggles and the trying to connect with your kids and your spouse and things like that. This journey, once you go through it, it's life-changing, and you're not gonna turn back, because you're gonna notice that time with people is important, and experiences with people are important, and so I say, just take the step. If you're at all thinking about it, talk to people and do it. Just do it. It's gonna change your life, and I can almost guarantee that for everyone, you're not gonna go back. So take that step. Don't think it's weird. Don't think tiny house people are a bunch of commune people, hippies that, you know, use 5-gallon buckets for the bathroom. Like, the tiny house can be whatever you want it to be. Whatever you want it to be. You can have all the amenities that you need, but do it. Don't wait. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give you a tour of my tiny house. And it looks like a shed because it is a shed. And we have a deck on the front that we added shortly after the show. You also see very few windows. We don't have a lot of windows on this tiny house. We have an air conditioning unit, which also does the heat that you see on the outside. I don't know what else. There's really not much else. Okay. I'm like trying to think of features. All right, so let's go check out the inside. The deck that I put on afterwards has been fantastic, mostly because when we first moved in and it would rain, it was really difficult to get inside the house without like flooding the floor. So this has been really helpful for that.
Did you do the deck yourself?
Yeah.
Pretty easy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it took me like maybe 4 hours.
I'm going to change these settings real quick.
All right, so here's the inside of the tiny house, the main floor. The square footage total is about 360 square feet if you include the loft space. As you can see over there, we have basically my closet, my shoes, my hanging clothes, my bike that stays inside, and then we have a couch here that does fold out into a guest bed for if we were to have friends over, if my daughter was to have a friend over. Here's the inside of the AC heat unit, which is incredibly efficient, doesn't use a lot of electricity, and keeps this place super cool in the summer and perfectly warm in the winter. We have up there a projection system because we don't have a television, and so we have a projector that will project onto a 7-foot screen that's comes down in front of the kitchen for watching movies, Netflix, things like that. So yeah, here's the screen that comes down, and I initially thought that when the screen came down you wouldn't have access to the kitchen, but if you squeeze either under or around you can actually still get access to the kitchen. But yeah, there's our screen, and it's actually much larger than I thought initially.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like going to a movie.
Yeah, that was one of the features. I was like, we need to have something cool. And then over here is kind of one of my daughter's hangouts, and so she's got a little Japanese style folding chair. She'll sometimes hang out down there. Above we just have shelves and clothes and things like that we keep. We also have, which I just bought her last year, and she's in this half of the time.
Oh man.
Because I bought her a hammock, and we originally were going to put it outside, but she wanted it inside, and she's in there all the time. She sleeps in there sometimes. It's one of her favorite things.
That's awesome.
And then we come over here. Here's the 3/4 bath. Has a fairly nice size stand-up shower. Standard toilet, plumbing is all typical to what you would have in your house at home. There's no sink in there, but we didn't need one because there's the sink right here. So this is my kitchen. We have a kind of a dorm style refrigerator, but the one thing that I wanted on that was a separate freezer, because a lot of your dorm style fridges only have freezers that barely fit anything. So this has a separate freezer, which we found has given us plenty of space. I go to the grocery store, get my typical groceries, and we can fit most of the stuff that we need to put in there in. Up here, very basic, open concept, just all of our dishes and food and things like that we need. And actually there's stuff up there that I don't use, so if anything I could probably downsize some of that and get rid of some more things. One thing I wanted, garbage disposal, just one of those things that I had to have in my house that some tiny houses don't. This unit right here is fantastic. It's a microwave on top, and then on the bottom it has a little tray that's an oven. And it's a convection oven, so it cooks really quickly and evenly. Of course, you can't do like full-size turkeys, but anything that's kind of shallow, cookies, brownies, pizzas, things like that, super fast and super efficient.
Didn't know they made those.
Yeah, that's been life-changing. And you'll just see some other things that we did for space saving. Like this was an office supply thing for like pens and stuff like that. We use that for our silverware just to get it off the counter, and then the magnetic strip for the knives and the mugs all hanging up. I'm always thinking of things to kind of decrease the amount of things that end up on our counter, just so we feel like we have more space. And then that's pretty much it for the downstairs in terms of features. Yeah, here's our attic ladder, basically. I had thought about building a ladder myself, and then saw that these were relatively inexpensive, and it's been great. We haven't had any issues with it. It's very easy to fold up and down, so like if we are going to watch a movie and we don't even want this in the way, we can fold it up really easily. It also gives my daughter privacy. Sometimes she wants to play her guitar upstairs, and so I can close that off and she feels like I'm not watching her. So it gives a little bit more of a sense that you're separated from each other.
That's smart. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those in tiny homes. They're doing those collapsible ones now, where they're aluminum and they like just slide up, like they collapse into themselves. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we're gonna go on upstairs. The first thing you'll see as we head up the stairs is on either side of the stairs is just a storage area. Keep our camping supplies, extra blankets, things like that. And then we have our bedrooms. On this side is my daughter's bedroom, and I was a little worried initially about the space, adding a bed to it. Like, would you be hitting your head every day when you woke up? We did. We hit our head a couple of times each, but we quickly learned not to do that. So you do have to kind of army crawl into bed, but there's plenty of space, and it's been really fantastic. the one thing that that was a feature that I added that a lot of people like and I love is that above both of our beds I put iPad holders. And so you lay in bed at night, what you do in a typical house, a lot of families have a TV in their room. This gives you something to watch right above your head, and when you're ready to go to bed, you just fold it up, collapse it up to the ceiling, and you go to bed. So both of our rooms have iPad holders above it. Other than that, it's just basically a bed. There's a window on either side, and we have some storage on both sides of the bed, but that's it. It's simple, basic. Yeah, that's it for the inside. We'll take a quick tour of the outside, and that'll be it. And so just a couple of things that actually the shed company incorporated to help with the longevity of the house. We went ahead with the 30-year shingles, so we spent it's a little bit more expensive, but it lasts a little bit longer. The siding material is actually basically lifetime. It's never going to rot, never going to mold. It's going to be there forever. We're getting ready to paint it. Our friends are going to be painting their house. We're going to be painting our house as well, so it will be slightly different color very soon, but tried to incorporate as much on the outside. All the trim is PVC trim, just stuff that would last forever, be low maintenance, so we don't have to worry about the outside.
So ventilation, how does the ventilation work underneath? I see you have the vents there.
Yeah, the bottom of the house is basically like a mobile home. It's just the house is on blocks, and then we put skirting around the outside, and you have to have ventilation just so you don't have moisture buildup and mold growing underneath there. We have had, because we live out in the country, some critters crawling up and living under there, so we deal with that once in a while. I think I said, or let's say, we don't have a lot of windows in this house. That's one thing that I kind of want to add, is maybe a window on this side above, which would be above the couch, just to give us a little bit more natural light. That's something that I wish I would have incorporated early on, but it's not a difficult add-in later. So that's another thing with a tiny house, is that if you're going to do any kind of upgrades or things like that, they're a whole lot cheaper because your materials are going to be smaller and less, and they're a lot quicker to perform. So you don't have to like move out of your house. It's usually just a quick upgrade and move on, and you don't have to spend a lot of money.
Do you like living out here?
In the country?
Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's quiet out here. We have animals around us. It's really nice.
So are you on septic or are you on compost?
Septic.
Septic, okay.
Yeah.
So is that a ventilation for
the toilet?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the toilet vent, and we're on a septic and a well out here because currently Tulsa does not allow tiny houses to be permanent residents in the city, and so that was part of the reason why we're in the country, is to get out of those regulations. But then at that point, you're not on city water, so you have to be on a septic and a well. And the house is all electric as well. So it's all electric, septic, well, which gives us, that was one of the things I wanted to make sure we had kind of standard construction. I'm not really a fan of composting toilets and living off of rainwater and stuff like that. So that was one of the quirks that I wanted with this house.
Awesome. Is that a vent for the bedroom? Oh, that's still bathroom up there? Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a storm shelter?
Yes, yeah, we have a storm shelter that we share with our neighbors, and it was something that we wanted. They don't have a basement, and so we went together and got one together because tiny houses probably wouldn't do well in a tornado. And so it's, close proximity, safety, you have to think about that. The very first night that my daughter and I spent in the tiny house, we were in the storm shelter, and there was a tornado that actually went over our house and touched down just east of here.
Okay.
And was on the ground. It was I think a 2 category or whatever that is. And it landed and tore up some trees and a couple of houses over there. But the very first night, we had to drop everything and run to the storm shelter. This journey, once you go through it, it's life-changing, and you're not gonna turn back because you're gonna notice that time with people is important, and experiences with people are important, and so I say just take the step. If you're at all thinking about it, talk to people and do it. Just do it. It's going to change your life, and I can almost guarantee that for everyone, you're not going to go back. The tiny house can be whatever you want it to be. Whatever you want it to be. You can have all the amenities that you need, but do it. Don't wait.
I just want to say thank you for letting us come over, Jim, and take a tour of your home and share your experience with everybody who's watching these videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We wish the best to Jim and his daughter on this incredible journey that they've taken. If somebody wants to contact you, what's a good way if they have questions for you or something like that?
You can find me on Facebook, and honestly, if you look up Jim and Tiny House in Broken Arrow, you'll find articles and information where you can get my email and contact me.
If you want to, you can also leave a comment below for him, and I'll make sure that he gets that comment and sees the comment, and we can reply that way. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. What are your thoughts, ideas, anything? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys in the next video.